On today's episode, I'm going to show you a super easy and delicious seafood recipe. This is my baked honey garlic salmon. Hi, I'm Chef Ange, and welcome to my kitchen. This recipe is super easy, it's really fast, it comes together from beginning to end really easily. You're going to think you ordered at a restaurant and you can't believe that you made it yourself. Before we get into the recipe, don't forget to hit subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can find out when I drop new recipe and new tip videos to help you in the kitchen. If you'd like the full ingredient list, you can check that in the description box below. Let's get cooking. So the first step in this recipe is to season the salmon. So I already have the salmon pulled out. I pulled it out of the fridge a little bit before so it comes up to room temperature. When you're cooking fish or any protein for that matter, you probably want it to be room temperature so it cooks really evenly and fast. I also have it on a piece of paper towel so I can get rid of a lot of the moisture that collects. We're gonna want the skin to get a little crispy on the bottom. If you're gonna eat it, you like crispy skin, and if you don't wanna eat it, it just makes it easier to take the skin off of the salmon flesh. So I'm gonna place my fillets inside this hotel pan. Hotel pans you don't commonly see in home kitchens, but you see them a lot in restaurant kitchens. And this is a great piece of equipment to season proteins that you want flat, and it's better than a bowl. So if you don't have one of these, I highly suggest you picking one up and adding it to your kitchen equipment. So I'm gonna take some olive oil, and I'll be pretty liberal with this and drizzle it right over the top. And then I'm gonna season with, so this is some blackening seasoning, and this is a Black Magic from Spiceology. I love their stuff, and this is my favorite blackening seasoning. But if you don't have this, you can just use any blackening seasoning. I'm gonna just give this a good sprinkle over the top. I'm not being too exact, I'm just coating the pieces that I have. So this is my Chef Ange base seasoning. I'll throw a link up there so you can check out this, but this is just a blend of garlic powder, onion powder, salt, and pepper. I keep this mixed on hand for all times. And I'll give this a sprinkle on top as well. So now using my hands, I'll coat the fish with the olive oil and the spices, and I'm gonna make sure I'm gonna coat all the sides. Coat the bottom, coat the top. And I'm just gonna keep mixing this with my hands until I get the fish nicely coated on all sides with the base seasoning, the blackening seasoning, and that olive oil. And that olive oil is just acting as a binder to help those spices stick to the fish. So now that my fish has been seasoned, I'm gonna let this sit out for a little bit to let the spices bloom. I'm not gonna immediately put this in the oven, but I'm gonna set this aside and we're gonna make our glaze. So now we're gonna mix our glaze. I'm gonna put in a bowl some honey, soy sauce, a little bit of maple syrup, some sesame oil, some rice wine vinegar. Now I'm gonna shred in 3 or 2 cloves of garlic, and I'm gonna want the garlic to be pretty fine so it gets a good garlic flavor into the glaze. Every time I make this, I always drop this in, but I just keep grating it. This happens every single time. Last but not least, we're gonna put a touch of the blackening seasoning in that we use to season the fish. We don't need a lot, just a little bit. That's probably plenty. And so now I'll incorporate it all together because the honey's really thick, so we're gonna use a whisk. And we're gonna keep whisking until we get a nice even consistency of this glaze. A lot of these salmon recipes call for taking this glaze, put it on the stove, and then reducing it. I like to just keep it like this because I like a thinner glaze because I don't really like it like super thick on my fish. I just want it to coat and flavor the outside of the fish. So now let's get our fish into the oven. I've got a baking sheet here that I've lined with aluminum foil and parchment paper. The aluminum foil is to help me on cleanup, and the parchment paper is because it's nonstick, and it also helps absorb some of the oil from the fish and also some of the juice that's released. I really like using parchment paper for baking stuff. So I'll arrange the fish nice and evenly on my baking sheet, making sure that I'm leaving a little bit of space in between to allow heat to get in between the pieces. And I can already see that I'm gonna be a little crowded on this baking sheet. So we'll go like this, and we'll put the last piece like that. So now we're gonna put this salmon into the oven. I got my oven preheated to 425 degrees. I also have it on a convection setting. If you don't have it on a convection setting, you could probably just bump the temperature up, but salmon tends to cook well at a high temperature. I'm gonna put this in for anywhere between 10 to 12 minutes until it's almost fully cooked. We're gonna put a little glaze on top of it, and then we're gonna send it back in the oven for a minute or 2. So our salmon's been in the oven for about 10 minutes, so let's pull it out and see what it looks like. So this looks really, really good. So our salmon's already almost cooked. It's got some of the white proteins already starting to come out of the side, which means like the salmon's really close to cooked. So we're just gonna put a little glaze on top. We're gonna send it back in the oven for a few minutes just to let the glaze get a little bit more solid on the outside. I'll give the glaze a good mix to make sure that the garlic's all mixed in with there. And now from here, I'm just gonna give it just like a nice gentle touch right over the top. I'm gonna try not to overly glaze the fish because I don't want the glaze running off and creating like a pool of glaze like underneath the fish. Some of that's gonna happen, but we don't want too much of it to happen. So I'll just keep dipping it in the glaze, giving it a little bit of a mix, and then just hitting it right over the top. Okay, so now I put this first coat of glaze on each of these pieces. We're gonna put this back in the oven for about 2 more minutes just to let the glaze like harden up a little bit on the outside and also continue and finish cooking the fish. All right, so our salmon's fully done cooking. So now I'm gonna take the salmon and I'm gonna transfer it over to a baking dish that has a raised grate on it. I've also lined it with aluminum foil just to save on cleanup. So when you're picking fish up, always make sure that you're using a fish spatula that's really, really thin and you're able to get underneath the fish. And always try to go with the wide side of the fish. It's just the easiest way to pick up a fish. And if it needs a little support on the skinnier end, bring your hand underneath. So let me show you one of the best parts about lining your baking trays with aluminum foil and parchment paper. Check out this cleanup. So I take the little bit of paper towel that I have here just to soak up any of the juices. I'll throw that right inside the middle and then we'll just fold that aluminum foil up. We're all done. So now let's finish with our fish. We're gonna put another coat of glaze on. I'm gonna put it on the same way, just by tapping it over the top, not to overly rub the fish or drown it in glaze, but just adding just a little bit more. And again, I'm just dipping it in the bowl, giving it a mix, so making sure I'm getting some of that garlic on there. So now I'm gonna use a kitchen torch just to give a little bit of browning on the outside. If you don't have a kitchen torch, I highly suggest you get one. And if you don't have one and don't wanna get one, you can just throw this under the broiler for a minute. And I'm just gonna give this just a quick once over. Once I see a little bit of that glaze caramelizing, I'll move on and I'm just keeping the torch moving. And again, if you don't have a torch, you could just do this with a broiler. So I find that the torch is just a little bit more effective and a little bit more precise. Always when you're hitting it with the torch, put it on the aluminum foil so you don't light your parchment paper on fire. I've done that too many times and set up the smoke alarm. Last step before we take this and we put this on a plate is we're just gonna take some sesame seeds and we're gonna sprinkle them right over the top. And just like you're sprinkling your salt, put it in between your fingers and go from high, try not to go low and try to aim the sesame seeds, but just let them spread out and whatever doesn't go on the fish is gonna go inside the baking tray and it'll be nice, easy cleanup. So you can take this and you can serve this with the skin on, or sometimes you can take the skin off. Some people don't like the skin, but watch how easy that skin comes off. So I'll take any one of these pieces and I'll just tip them over and I'll start at one end and that skin should just come right off. And again, you don't have to take the skin off, you can eat it. In fact, when I do take the skin off, I like to eat these. It's absolutely delicious, super crispy, delicious fresh salmon skin. That's so good. So now to finish our garnish, we'll take some sliced scallion greens and sprinkle them right over the top. How good does this look? When you make this at home, people are gonna ask you what restaurant you ordered this from. And you're gonna send them over to my channel and you're gonna say, Chef Ange taught me how to make it. A couple of slices of lemon. Now folks, honestly, how good does this look? So let's eat one of these and see how we did. So I'll take a piece of lemon. Ooh, slippery little lemon. Squeeze this right over the top. Look how perfectly that's cooked. Where it's nice and shiny on the inside. It's already cooked all the way through. Oh my God, that is so good. I'm going in for another bite of this one. Even people that don't like fish, like make them this, you'll change them. Wow. Perfectly cooked, nice and moist. Sweet, savory. This is so good. Well, I'm Chef Ange. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, click like on this video, leave comments, let me know how your salmon comes out, and I'll see you on the next episode. Thanks for watching.